In 1979, Iraq witnessed a shift that would echo across the Middle East, a shift engineered not by chance, but by calculation. This is the story of how Saddam Hussein stepped out of the shadows and into the throne of absolute power. For years, President Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr was the official leader of Iraq, the face of the Ba'athist government. But behind the curtains of the presidential palace, real power was slowly, methodically, shifting. The man orchestrating this change was his own vice president, Saddam Hussein. While al-Bakr held the title, Saddam controlled the levers of the state. He commanded the formidable security forces, directed the vast intelligence apparatus, and managed the flow of information that reached the highest echelons of government. His influence was not just structural, it was personal. Ministers and high-ranking military officers found themselves turning to Saddam, not the president, for guidance and approval. They saw in him a decisive, ambitious, and ever-present figure who understood the intricate dance of Iraqi politics. He was the man who got things done. Publicly, Saddam maintained the image of a loyal deputy, but in the corridors of power, he was the leader in all but name. He had built a parallel government, a state within a state, with himself at its very center. Every file, every report, every promotion passed through his hands. He was building a foundation of loyalty and control that would soon prove unshakable. President al-Bakr, meanwhile, was fading. Age and declining health were taking their toll, leaving him increasingly unable to navigate the daily power struggles and demands of his office. He grew more reliant on his vice president to manage the state's affairs. Saddam presented himself as the dutiful subordinate, easing the president's burden and handling the complexities of governance. He appeared in public alongside al-Bakr, projecting an image of unity and stability, but privately, every responsibility he absorbed was another brick in his own path to the presidency. This dynamic created the perfect opening. Saddam didn't need to stage a dramatic coup. He simply had to wait and let the natural course of events, subtly guided by his hand, play out. Al-Bakr's weakness became Saddam's greatest strength. The president's absence from key meetings and decisions became more frequent, and Saddam was always there to fill the void, his presence becoming a constant, his authority growing more entrenched with each passing day. With the president's influence waning, Saddam initiated a calculated pressure campaign. It was a masterclass in political maneuvering, designed to isolate al-Bakr completely. He began by systematically reassigning officials who were fiercely loyal to the president, sending them to diplomatic posts abroad or to less influential positions within the government. Key military and security officers who owed their allegiance to al-Bakr were quietly replaced with men who owed their careers to Saddam. His own network of supporters was strengthened, promoted into critical roles where they could monitor and control the state machinery. Intelligence operations were tightened, ensuring that Saddam was the first to know of any potential dissent or opposition. He created an invisible web that enveloped the entire political structure, making it impossible for any major decision to be made without his explicit consent. The government was becoming his instrument, and President al-Bakr was slowly being transformed into a figurehead, trapped within a system that now answered to another master. The final act of this political drama unfolded on July 16, 1979, a day that would forever rewrite Iraq's history. Before the nation, a weary Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr announced his resignation, citing health reasons. To the outside world, it might have seemed a plausible, if sudden, transition, but for those within the inner circle, this was the inevitable conclusion of a long-running play. Behind the scenes, Saddam had left nothing to chance. He had negotiated with key party figures, applied immense pressure on any who might hesitate, and completely surrounded the political apparatus with his loyalists. There was no room for debate, no alternative candidate, no possibility of resistance. The transfer of power was presented as a constitutional formality. Immediately following al-Bakr's announcement, the Revolutionary Command Council met, and Saddam Hussein was unanimously appointed as the new president of Iraq, chairman of the Revolutionary Command Council, and Secretary General of the Ba'ath Party. For the first time, the man who had wielded power from the shadows stepped into the light as the undisputed leader of his nation. Now holding the presidency, Saddam understood that titles were not enough. He needed to demonstrate the nature of his new rule, to set an example that would resonate across the country. Just 6 days after taking office, on July 22nd, he convened an extraordinary meeting of the Ba'ath Party leadership. As the cameras rolled, what began as a routine assembly quickly turned into a chilling display of power. Saddam calmly took the stage and announced that a dangerous conspiracy against the new government had been uncovered from within their own ranks. A pre-recorded confession from a high-ranking member was played, implicating dozens of officials sitting in the room. As Saddam read name after name from a list, accused members were escorted out by security guards, their faces a mixture of shock and terror. This televised purge was a clear and brutal message sent to everyone in Iraq. The new era would be ruled with absolute discipline. Dissent would not be tolerated. Loyalty was now the ultimate law, and the price for breaking it was absolute. With his authority brutally consolidated, Saddam Hussein began to reshape Iraq overnight. The state apparatus was fundamentally transformed. New security measures were implemented, giving the intelligence services unprecedented reach and power. The military leadership was further reorganized, ensuring that every commander was personally vetted for loyalty. Power, once distributed among various party committees, was now heavily centralized in the office of the president. The entire structure of government was streamlined to respond directly to his will. Simultaneously, a powerful propaganda machine was set into motion, building a cult of personality around the new leader, his image appearing on billboards, in schools, and in public squares across the nation. Iraq had officially entered the Saddam-Iran era that would soon be defined by war, massive social projects, and intense global scrutiny, and thus began Saddam's rule, not by accident, but by meticulous design. In the next episode, Saddam Hussein's first years as president, and the ambitious project of building the new Iraq.